Welcome to Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. This podcast is about the journey to a more sustainable future in order for us to be able to do our bit to achieve net zero. I'll be discussing a variety of topics with experts in their field in order to educate and increase our knowledge of clean energy, electric vehicles and the electric vehicle infrastructure. So whether you're an individual wanting to make a difference at home, a small business or a corporate, this podcast is just for you. Okay, so on today's episode, I've got Sebastian Fleischhacker, and he's the central roaming manager at Spirii. They're based in Denmark, founded back in 2019, and I've met Sebastian a few times at a variety of events, haven't I, along with Niels Vinding. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And also, the other thing is, he's talking to me from the outskirts of, 45 kilometers away from Barcelona.
Yes.
You are an international man, aren't you?
Yeah, I was born like that. I'm from nowhere. I grew up in like 7, 8 countries. So I'm from nowhere. I'm a citizen of the world.
And you speak, right, yeah, how many languages? What different languages do you speak? Because this will put me to shame massively.
So I speak Catalan because I live in Catalonia. Here's the
You had to bring, for those who are listening, I know you're not going to see this, I'm so sorry, but he was talking to me earlier about this Catalan tradition at Christmas called Uncle Crapper.
yes, yes.
So he's just showed me this log with a face on it and legs called Uncle Crapper.
Yes, it's a very Catalan tradition. Sometimes people think it is a lie, but it really exists. You have to feed it, and then you have to hit it hard with a stick, and then well, it produces with its stomach.
It produces presents.
Exactly. So Catalan, French, Portuguese, German, Spanish, English. I think that's 6. I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah, I think I just
German, obviously, I'm German. I was born in Germany.
Of course. Yeah, I manage English and a bit of Yorkshire. That's me.
I love it because whenever I listen to your podcast, I try to identify where the accents are from. It's really, really cool.
Bless you. Bless you. So I always ask this question. You've just said about your languages and that you're kind of used to living in a variety of different countries. But what was your kind of professional journey? What did you end up doing before you actually got into Spirii then and started working at Spirii?
From university, I'm a documentary film director.
You?
And
Oh my God.
yeah. So there is a lot of stars in the Spanish Hollywoodish world, but there's no industry. So after working for 10, 11 years there, I was going to get a baby. Yeah, being paid 3 years after the last project was like, okay, maybe you dedicate yourself to something else. Then came the crash 2008 or so. One of 4 out of 4 people my age had no jobs in Spain. So I had to leave Spain and try something else in Germany. I went back to my city where I was born and I never lived. So I was living for the first time in the city I was born. And yeah, but as my wife is Brazilian, she didn't get used to these 4 hours of sunlight and these people that you were kind to, but they barked back at you. And then I was difficult to get used. And then we came back, and then it was still the crisis, and there was nothing, like just cold door salesman. That was what existed.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that I sold electricity and gas contracts to people on the cold door, being knocked on the face and thrown out of the house. Police were called. So cold calling was super easy after that.
That sounds shocking. That does sound shocking. Oh my goodness. So what brought you to Spirii then?
Yeah, so I bought an electric vehicle like about 9 years ago, which means that I'm in between the first adopters in Spain of electric mobility. And then I fell in love in that. And then I did everything because I said a film director is knowing never going to work in electric mobility. And I was sick and tired of just complaining or saying this is bad, but I don't know why is it bad? Or how can we fix it? So you can blog about stuff. You can complain about stuff in social media and then get known and be connected with an NGO. I was part of an NGO with one of the first Spanish people to buy an electric vehicle and huge YouTube influencer in Spain. And he said, "Hey, Sebastian, you do a great job in communicating on Twitter. Why don't you join us?" I'm like, yeah, why not? And then I got to test 30 EVs and make mystery shopping and understand why the hell nobody is selling EVs. And then you like, okay, this brand, well, they don't even get a commission to sell an EV. Why would they change something when they are used to horsepower and moving pieces and mechanical pieces that break that you need to replace and stuff like that? Like that business model, right? Of programmed obsolescence, and yeah. After that, I studied and connected to everybody on Twitter, everybody on LinkedIn, and started reading about everything I could for 4 years. And then I did my first step into the biggest Spanish EMSP, which is called Electromaps, and which is now part of Wallbox Chargers. And then some years later, well, I was just called to join Spirii and lead the roaming part at Spirii.
So, okay. Can you explain? Because obviously there's going to be lots of people who are listening and watching that do know what roaming is and how it works. But there's also going to be people who probably don't. You hear the phrase. So can you give us a kind of like a baseline understanding of what roaming is? Because you could use it for phones, can't you? But what is roaming, what's it there to do, and how does it support kind of, we're talking about electric vehicles and charging. How does it work that way?
So if we come from the telephone part and maybe your credit card part or your toll device, that is the best thing to understand it. So your telephone provider in the UK is unable to plant antennas in Mexico, but your phone still works there. Guess
Yes.
what? It is not magic. It is because a roaming person made an agreement with their antenna providers to say, "Hey, whenever this phone comes by, can we please use your antenna?" Yes. Same thing with your bank. Your bank didn't build ATMs in India or Australia, right? There was a roaming person that made an agreement so that your card could be used in that ATM and you could use it normally.
Yeah.
Same thing with tolls, but now it is like kind of new, like 10, 12 years maybe, that roaming also went to charging stations. So if I am a charge point operator, I have my territory where I start, but then what do? Do I drive the 50% of my range and then go back crawling to my cave and feel protected because I can charge at home? No, you want to have the full experience of what a car is. So what I do is I bring third-party charge point operators into my app to remove range anxiety. So I give information, I give access, and I give status, and I give payment. I give customer support if it is required. And on the other side, I have users, and I want my users, the other way around. I want users from other EMSPs, electric mobility service providers, to be able to charge on my chargers.
Mm.
That is roaming. I do both things. I do one direction and the other direction.
Okay.
It's very important to position yourself to know into what direction you're talking about when you're talking about roaming. Roaming, interoperability, same thing.
So interoperability is, and like you're saying, it goes both ways. So okay.
Yeah.
No, that's hopefully that, yeah, that's perfect. Even I can understand that one. So okay, what territories do you look at? What kind of, who are your customers currently then? Are they, because I know you've got a presence in the UK because we see you quite a lot at events, and and obviously you kind of started in Denmark, didn't you?
Yes.
Where is your network, and how many connectors are you connected to if you are doing all of this and it's kind of bi-directional kind of.
Yeah. So from the totality of our chargers that sit on our backend, on our charge point management system, 5,000 is what I share through roaming from different owners, right? But I aggregate them in one offer. It is easier to go to the market when you go with 5,000 than if you go with 10. I will, can you please send users to my 10 chargers? Potentially more difficult than if you aggregate them and say, I have 5,000 chargers. Could you provide me with good access to also your chargers? Of course, thank you. Yes. And these 5,000 chargers, 5,000 connectors are currently in 18 countries. And that goes from Mauritius in Africa, where we had a customer that required to put chargers there. Now there are more than 20 locations there. So if you go on vacation there, keep your Spirii app on your phone, and you can charge there without any problems. Cyprus, Romania, Spain, Belgium, Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Germany. Yeah, a lot of countries.
So and you talked about the Spirii app, didn't you? So there's an app that will come with when you're selling it to your customers, the app will be available. But we talked about this before I started recording, didn't we? About the fact that whoever, you will white label things for people.
Exactly. So bigger corporations with a established brand obviously sometimes prefer to say, hey, it doesn't make sense for me to have an app that is called Spirii Go. That has nothing to do with me. I am Liz Allan. I want Liz Allan charging. Okay, yes. Don't worry, we build it for you.
So who are your partners then? Who are you kind of partnering with? Are they a variety? Are they just charge point operators? Are they OEMs? What kind of organizations are you partnering with?
So there's a wide range of industries we cover. We have oil and gas, we have energy utilities, we have real estate, we have commercial parking, we have fleets, we have charge point operators, and we collaborate very closely with hardware manufacturers. So with these hardware manufacturers, get a big customer where they are recurrently selling hardware. Normally, this hardware is not just the cost for them, but they want to make a revenue to generate some return on investment. So these guys also need a brain behind these machines to be able to manage them, to know, okay, which user group are where, how can I hierarchically?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yes, well, that thing. Organize user groups and tariff groups and access to several locations. We even manage the charger at home. So with one app, with one solution, with one front end, with the Spirii Go or Liz Allan Go, you can control your charger at home. If you go to work, we can control your charger at work as well. And then this moment full of anxiety to connect point A to point B, this child charging in the wild, that's what I'm responsible for. So I remove the fear and allow you to freely roam everywhere you want.
And I suppose what we're also talking about here is utilization of the chargers that are actually out in the wild, aren't you? Because you're giving them an opportunity for multiple people from multiple networks
Yes.
actually coming on to actually utilize those chargers.
And not only that, we have a heat map of a location and know when there's more people or less people coming, so we can control even the attraction or detraction of customers by controlling the price dynamically. We are connected to the energy grids and we are slicing the day in 24 hours so that you are allowed to always charge at the best possible rate. So what is dynamic pricing in this context? Dynamic pricing from a charge point owner perspective is great because you are not forced to put a tariff because the energy market goes up and down. It is not a flat line of one price during 3 months, which means that you as a charge point owner are exposed at an immense risk. So instead of being under the market or below or over the market, or always pricing it wrong, we go with the curve so that you are not exposed to financial risk. And from the end user perspective, it's even better, well, or as good, because you know that you are not going to be priced above a certain threshold. You are always paying at the level of the market.
So how many charge point operators are using dynamic pricing currently? Say if we just look at, I don't know if you can kind of give me an example of, and don't need to name, but kind of in the UK, what percentage would you say are
I
using
haven't
this?
seen dynamic pricing going on in the UK.
Have you not? I've heard one organization talk
Okay.
about dynamic pricing, but
This
whether
organization is happy to connect with my EMSP sites because I will be able to provide them with users that can see a dynamic price in their app, which is not a very common thing. I speak with the biggest EMSPs in Europe, and the majority are having issues to find a way to represent in their app how dynamic a price is. And let's not even go to the world outside of apps. Okay, because outside of app, what do you have? You have a collection of maybe 5 RFIDs or
yeah,
charging cards or
yeah.
a lot of charging cards. But guess what? This charging cards, this piece of plastic is not going to inform you where these chargers are, if you have a special deal because you get a better price there, or at what time that special price comes. That is not going to happen. So this is my internal fight with cards. Cards were great in the past, and they're not good if there's not non-discriminatory access to roaming from 4 different CPOs. Because you're really having a card that works in only 3, 4, 5 CPOs, not good. You have to go with a collection of plastic cards. And we're talking about sustainability, not using that plasticky thing that is good for a lot of things, but not for being burned or create plastic that can be thrown away. Let's do more intelligent things with fossil fuels because it is valuable. And there are a lot of things that we haven't found an alternative solution. And what are we doing with that important thing? 80%, 90% of the time we're burning it.
Very true.
Not
So, okay,
far.
so if there's not many companies in the UK that are doing this, then where would I look to as a consumer? What country are utilizing, kind of roaming effectively? Oh, sorry, dynamic pricing effectively.
Dynamic pricing can be found in Germany, can be found in the Netherlands, can be found in the Nordics, and we're always speaking about public. Okay, what you have at home, and you in the UK have had it forever because these agile things, this little octopus you have behind you,
I do.
they have done amazing for the evolution of how we consume electricity and how we maintain a stable grid, because you remove the big part of consumption at 1 hour and you are forcing it through better pricing to other times of the day.
Yes.
Right. So the production of energy in these moments, which are difficult, can be moved in time, and we help to do that as well with our charge point management system, with what we call Spirii Connect. That's the brain part.
So, okay. I asked you before we started recording about which bits you do, and you said to me, it's the bits that you don't do that you know, because you kind of do everything. Do you want to I know you've explained some of this, but which bits don't you? Because I said, oh, do you do payment? Which bits don't you do out of this whole system?
Okay, if we start from the easy part, from the app side, which is the front facing to whoever, because it's one app that goes to an EV fleet owner, to a business owner, or to a private person, we can do several languages, we can do several digital payment methods, we can do several currencies. That is on the app side. You can control your home, you can control your business, and you can even, through vouchers, what we call vouchers, promote loyalty with certain customers. Let's say a restaurant wants charges, or a restaurant chain better, or a supermarket chain, whatever chain, right? And they want to provide a better service or a loyalty program for these users, or for your own employees. Like we have some chargers, our employees will pay at this price, the others will pay at the other price. Like, vouchers are super flexible and can be configured as you wish, almost. Like, there are some things that we can do, but for example, there's a very normal thing in the Netherlands that is called employee reimbursement.
Yes.
Right? Like, in the Netherlands, everybody that has an employer that helps you drive electric will give you a card, and this card is to be used everywhere, even at home. And you don't want to make a Dutch person angry for overpaying 10 cents. Because they will run after these 10 cents, because it's not for them to pay, it's their employee. I once spoke to a customer support person from the Netherlands and said, yes, this is really, really a big problem. Like, when employee reimbursement doesn't work, they really get angry.
And you wouldn't like them when they're angry.
So
go on. Sorry.
What else? From the charge point management system, we can have an overview of your charging infrastructure, and it is built modularly, which means that if you need it, you can use it and buy it. If you don't need it because you already have it, you don't need to buy it from us, right? Customer service in several languages. You have the whole billing thing that we do for you in your name or in our name, depending on how much you want to, or how you want to configure that. You can have the solution rollout, which is a beautiful part of our team, which allows us to go to an existing charge point operators with 10 or 1,000 or 2,000 chargers to have it switch their current charge point management system to us in less than 2 months. That's a lot, and we are aiming for 1 month. So yeah, that's a really big thing, because in the past people are a bit reluctant on changing, because, oh, the process cost me 6 months. Yeah, that was normal some years ago. And if you still consider that normal, and you're not switching because you think that is going to be repeated, Good news, it is not, right? Then we have a growth thing, right? 2 or 3 years ago, in one of the biggest important roaming conferences in Berlin, the big talking point was scalability. Oh, there are so many popping up, and then they will compete, and they eventually going to disappear and fight and blah blah. Well, if you want to grow, you need to scalability software. And what we give you with Spirii Business is the capability for your users to use something that since COVID is very normal for everybody, online shopping, right? We can build a layer on top of your company website. Let's say you're a bank, or you're an employer and you want to facilitate that in the internet of your customers. Hey, I just got an electric car. Okay, what charger do you want? Do you have like a normal installation? Do you require a special installation? Do you want something more? Yeah, say click, 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 sign terms and conditions, and suddenly a work order, a purchase order, and all the services around them are activated so that you can have a clear project management for your growth. That is what we call Spirii Business, and it can be configured in so many other ways that I don't even know. But if you want to know, you need to contact our sales, because I don't sell.
No. But you do so many more things, don't you? So many other things. So every
sorry, to add on top of that, so on top of the Spirii Business, the Spirii Connect, the Spirii Go app, or whatever version of that, we recently added, as we started 2 or 3 years ago with this dynamic pricing. We added flexibility services.
yes.
So there are markets that are very challenged. Like their grids have not been built up. And there is a classic example in Europe, the eastern part of the Netherlands, for example. If you put a charger on the ground, you can wait up to 10 years for it to be connected. So it's worth nothing after 10 years, that charger, obviously, because it has not been used. And we are helping that through demand response, frequency regulation, and we have already been approved by 5 governments to intervene in their grids by helping them with, like, oh, do you have a megawatt hour spare? Yes, provide it to me in a flexible way. Okay, I'll provide it in a flexible way, so you can avoid to turn on that coal plant or that gas plant. It's no longer needed. It's no longer needed because it's quicker, and the reaction time is better, and the end user doesn't really feel it at the end of the year.
So okay, for these flexibility services, how is that working? How is that kind of supporting the grid? What actually happens for that to, so because I suppose I'm thinking, is it similar to kind of is it like vehicle to grid that we're talking about, or is it vehicle to, the V2G
Yes, you can
type
accelerate
stuff?
and decelerate the speed you provide electrons to the battery. And through that little thing, I'm not an expert in FCR and frequency regulation, but if you want more, I can put you in contact with my colleagues. But so to dumb it down, because I don't fully understand it as well. It is the capability to provide something that we're going to give to the grid anyways in a slower or faster way. That's how I understand it. Probably.
Okay.
Potentially I'm saying something
So it's
wrong.
like turning it down or turning it down a little bit. Okay. It's a
Yeah.
bit like your old stereo or your car stereo that you still got, and you turn it up, or okay. I get it. I get it. So we talked a little bit about partnerships, didn't we? But what we haven't spoken about is the fact that Spirii has now become part of the Edenred group this year. And I know that's a big thing for you, isn't it?
Yes.
Really?
I mean, for now, alone by ourselves, we were able to conquer 18 countries, but they come with 45 countries. And mobility customers in a lot of these countries, and also a lot of history of fuel cards, right? Like they have companies with hundreds of thousands of customers using their cards. And some governments, some more advanced governments, are mandating that a certain percentage of that fleet needs to be electrified every year. So suddenly you need an electric vehicle business unit to help you cover that. And we were the chosen ones.
Fantastic. So hang on. So Edenred are based where? Are they? Is it Germany?
It's originally a French company.
Oh, it's it. Okay.
But they're everywhere. The other day I was Googling just because I had a commenter on LinkedIn writing me, hey, does that exist in Thailand? Okay, I am a central global roaming manager, but I don't know about how charging works in Thailand, and then I tried to understand it. But I was trying to search, and we even have people in Thailand, Edenred Group. So I haven't found out what all the 45 countries are. I know which are the 5 main markets that we're going to, and we're going to focus very strongly in the next year. And yeah, that's going to be very exciting. Like there's a lot of things coming right now.
Because you had two founders for Spirii, haven't you? There were two. Am I right? Yeah, there's 2 founders that set up Spirii back in 2019. Are they going to be fully involved in this kind of move forward with Edenred then?
Yes, yeah, they're still part of the team, and yeah, I guess Edenred has a very special history of mergers and acquisitions,
Okay.
where, well, maybe my customer needs this and that. Who's the expert in that field? Okay, let's help them, and that's just beautiful. Like when you get that support of that big group and that understanding of the industry, and that all others of like product offerings and service offerings around it, it just makes everything so much easier.
It's kind of cherry picking you, isn't it? So they've gone and they've sort of cherry picked and gone, oh yeah, well, Spirii will be part of we'd like Spirii to be part of our group, which is brilliant. And I was also going to ask you, so can you talk a little bit about, so I was looking on your website when I was kind of going through it, and you're doing some work with Hubject
Yes.
for
So
plug and
roaming.
charge.
Yeah. So Hubject, what is it? Like there are several ways of doing roaming. One thing is through roaming hubs, for example, Hubject or eClearing or Giraffe. There are preferences. Some people don't like one nationality, then they go to another roaming hub. Some are covering exactly the same customers, but you need to be in all of them to do roaming properly. And what a very important thing that Hubject gave us is the possibility to provide plug and charge to our customers.
So go on, give a little bit of explanation what plug and charge is, because I know most people will know, or a lot of people will know because I've talked about it before. But what does plug and charge do? How does it work?
So the easiest way to explain it maybe is that Tesla experience, right? I have my card, I have my car, I have the Tesla supercharger, connect, and magic, right? Yes,
The payment, it takes the energy, the payment goes through,
exactly.
etc. Yeah.
I mean, when you have one manufacturer that produces the hardware, the software, the car, there's not much magic happening there. When you have to do that with all the OEMs and all hardware manufacturers and making all the software providers agree, then you need a system that is not close to that just just that little environment, right? The big environment, not little, it's big. And that's complex. And so you need somebody that provides that security, that identification, that authorization, and that it is encrypted, because it's critical infrastructure. And hacking that, we just had a problem 2 days ago. It was not a hacking event, but
It was worldwide though, wasn't it?
yeah, imagine something going wrong with your credit card data, or somebody paying. Suddenly you have a bill of some hundreds of pounds that happened somewhere very far away from you because you're using a system that is not secure. Well, that is what the whole ISO 15118 protocol allows. And for example, Audi required us to have that, and this is how we perfected it. And whoever is a CPO and would wish to have ISO 15118, just contact us. They can have it as well.
So, okay.
It's another authorization method, another payment method.
Yeah. So, okay, so can all charge point operators and car and vehicles can this, because so some of the stuff that I'd heard was that for example, some OEMs hadn't opened up their vehicles for ISO 150 118.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, plug and charge. I knew I'd get it wrong.
15 lemonades is what Niall calls it.
Neil.
Neil,
Yeah. Oh,
yes.
yes. Okay.
15 lemonades, well, 15 lemonades, and then you get
Yes.
extra lemonades.
Get that. So have they been able to does what you've provided or what you've got now, can that open all of this up, or is there still going to be chargers that won't be able to provide that, that's provision, and cars that won't be able to use it?
Exactly. So hardware manufacturers have their go-to-market strategies. Some go that way, some don't. And if they abide by that standard and are certified by Hubject, they can send their car with their contract in their car, just plug it in, forget about everything else, and it works. Hardware needs to be specifically working, and you need the software that allows you to do that. So if you have a car that is capable of doing that, you can go to charge point operators using our system, which have enabled this extra type of paying for charging.
Right. Okay. So how many vehicles, or how many is it vehicles, or is it manufacturers of a kind of, that might sound a silly question, but so you've got, say for example, BYD.
Yeah.
I think all of their makes are all the ones that I've seen are all electric, aren't they? So would they open it out for all of the BYD vehicles
So
so
if
that
they
it
have the
could,
certification and they're
yeah.
certified against Hubject, these cars would have contracts like that credit card that Tesla has, contracts with certain EMSP conditions, with which that person can pay. For example, for private use or professional use, or you can have, the cars are built to have several contracts in them, because maybe your husband works and has the capability to get a better access because he works for these companies, and he needs to use that thing to identify himself because he's the driver of the car. Now, maybe you don't have access to that, or you shouldn't have access to that. You have your own agreement and your own payment, and you would select the user Liz to be going there and charge and pay.
Makes sense. Okay. So this is going to open up a lot of things for, as long as all the bits work, I suppose you've got all the agreements in the, in various places. I assume that that is going to make the charging networks, especially, for us in the UK, it would make things so much simpler, wouldn't it?
You touched on my favorite topic, Liz.
Come on then.
What is normal and easier or difficult? Is it the same for you than for a Portuguese, than for a Moroccan, than for a French guy or a Dutch guy? Where in Amsterdam you walk and then you find a charger, and if you look back and you fall over a next charger because there are chargers everywhere. I don't know if you have opened up a charge map in Amsterdam. It's just crazy. It's paradise.
No, I haven't, but I think I might need to do that now.
Guys, do that. Open an app, open a map on Amsterdam. It's like charging paradise. And what is normal is defined by the main charge point management system. Spirii is one of them, right? That has the longest legacy in your country. And if that legacy CPMS has imposed a way of charging, that is something that you consider as normal from a UK perspective.
But we don't know
is
we
not.
don't know any different, do we?
Exactly. And then it's difficult to say, oh, but Sebastian, you come with these solutions and they're not my way. Well, maybe they could. Maybe you could try it out. Maybe you could not try to reinvent the wheel or use that wheel that you were used to because that's just common and normal for you. That's what. So what is normal? What can be improved? A lot of things can be improved if you have the openness, or you're open-minded enough to try it and see what worked in other markets.
You'd think that would it's I mean that's your market research anyway, isn't it? And also I was talking to somebody before, we were talking about the voice of the customer, understanding what the voice of the EV driver is and what the EV driver actually wants. But the thing with the current EV driver in the UK is, as I said to you, we don't know what we don't know. We're just used to things being a certain way.
Yes.
And
Yes.
actually, I suppose in some ways, there was somebody else on LinkedIn actually talking about an EV drivers focus group, which I think is a brilliant idea. Actually, getting EV drivers to have these conversations. But I suppose you need to have knowledge of charging in different countries as well to be able to have that focus group work correctly.
Yes. And I'm unlucky or lucky enough that I work for 18 different countries and that I need to understand what is normal for them and see that the Portuguese system is completely different from the UK system, than from the Dutch system, than from German with their regulations. And we are so squared sometimes that we have slowed down electric mobility because we need to be legislated and
In
everything under
control.
control. Sometimes too much control works against you.
But would you say though that long term we should be looking at a level of standardization so that across the world, I don't know whether this is ever going to work, but we talk about kind of standardization where things we try and even it out so that an EV driver's journey should be familiar, when choosing a charger, no matter where we go. I mean, we've just come back from Brittany, and we used the Octopus Electroverse card, and actually that journey was really good. Do you know? Because it was all, and maybe I can see you smiling, and maybe kind of using the Spirii platform is the same, but to be honest, I would like to right. I'm just going to go back a step. What I would like is the journey to be as simple as possible, because, and you've probably heard me talk about all of this before, but actually because sometimes we could we could initiate the charge with the app. Sometimes we had to use the card. The one thing it did say was it said on the app which one you had to do it with.
Yes.
It didn't actually, I'm kind of like, why?
Because certain CPOs, and for example, the older Syndicat d'énergie in France, for example, they have been there forever, and they have chosen to only identify or allow access to their chargers through an RFID.
Mm,
So
mm,
if they don't choose to have the whole software development required to build an app, then they won't do it. So it is important to say, okay, for example, in this time, Octopus Electroverse will indicate this charger you need to use the RFID. This charger you can activate through what we call remote start. And if you allow remote start, guess what? The most advanced users will be able to charge everywhere. So maybe it is good to have as many authentication methods as possible, because what happens if they fail?
well, there is that. Yeah,
No?
there is that. Like I say, I suppose, yeah, it was good to be able to use that in a different country and see the different ways that the charging infrastructure worked over there. There was one issue that we had kind of with we had to do a bit of an emergency stop because I was driving and I suddenly started feeling really poorly.
Mm.
So we stopped at one site and there was an attendant there. We couldn't I had a plug surfing app as well and I couldn't use that or the card.
Yeah.
And and the attendant, bless his heart, was so busy looking at his phone, he wasn't particularly interested in talking to us. But I called him over, and my husband ended up having to download the app,
Yeah.
and fill in all his bank account details and stuff like that.
Well,
It was so. But
so
then
it's
we
a light
found out.
switch. It's a light switch, Liz. I want to make that very clear. The app can be a nuisance,
Mm,
but it is the light switch for that light bulb. And the shortest way possible is always the cheapest way possible. So
mm,
if you don't have a problem to overpay for because that energy has to be resold to another partner that then needs to put on a certain margin to cover their expenses. Well, if you go the shortest way, sometimes the shortest way in these kind of situations makes sense. And I was smiling because I remember 3-4 years ago, I remember Octopus Electroverse reaching out to me when I was working at Electromaps, and I was one of the first companies in Spain to have that OCPI connections with them.
mm.
So this is why I was smiling.
Yeah. No, like I say, the majority of it was fine. The biggest thing, and I've read something else on LinkedIn about this today, and I think it was Dr. Ewan McTurk that was talking about this. I can't remember exactly who, it might not have been him. And it was obviously we know about, you're charging, you've got the charge curve. When you get to 80%, the charger starts slowing down because you don't theoretically don't want to be on a charger till 100%. We had to have 100%. I was really unwell.
Hmm.
And what the guy didn't say was that after 45 minutes, we would be charged per minute X number of cents.
Yes.
So that ended up being a massive bill for us. And everything else was great. It was like 35 cents per kilowatt hour, which was really, really good, good value. That one was a bit of a pain.
Yeah. You're speaking about tarification strategies, how I call that.
Mm.
And all locations have different ways to attract or to tell people
Repel. Yeah. See ya.
continue your journey. And potentially this location had people sleeping over on these DC chargers, which they're
Mm.
not made for, right? And forget the car there and things like that. And then people, well, started using what I call the time variable to limit the time of charging. There are
Mm.
several ways of applying that. There, for example, the Italian way of doing that is once the car is full, they have something called the grace period. You have 45, 60 minutes to move your car and go away, because this is not a parking space. This is like, you will not park your petrol car in a gas station and wait until it's full and then wait 1 hour. No, will not. But that's the way of them configuring time to make people go away. And there are time variables that are limited inside the day, or it's a different level at night, or they completely disconnect at night. So there are several ways of setting up what you end up paying. The tariff has different variables: the session fee, the kilowatt hour fee, the time variable, and you can transform the time variable in one thing to measure how much time you want somebody there, but it can also be punitive or to be inviting you to continue your journey. Or even there are some charge point operators that will limit you to a certain state of charge.
Yes.
And then go.
Yeah. Well, actually, so the one thing I'd say here, it wasn't visible. That information, and obviously, you know, French isn't our first language. There should have, to me, there should have been something on the charger itself to say, you know, that there had to be something to say how much you were paying per kilowatt hour and what that those additional fees would be.
What happens if that charger doesn't have a screen and that changes every 2 months? Do they need to resticker everything and go with or send a troop of workers around the country to resticker all these chargers?
All right, you're playing devil's advocate now.
No, so maybe thanks to the AFIR regulation, now it will be mandatory to have more price transparency. And the goal is to really understand before you're charging how much you are going to pay during charging, to see that wheel that you were used to at the gas station changing, and after the charge you will be mandated to have an invoice that you can like use with your employer or whatever, right? And 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 I think we're moving very fast towards that direction. We haven't spoken about that little thing that annoys me a little bit,
Go on.
which is credit card payment, which everybody says is very easy. It's so cool to be able to pay with your credit card everywhere. Guess what? I don't think your bank ever cared about how you drove and knows a lot about your driving needs, payment needs. I find it interesting because a charge point operator, one of their biggest expenses, costs, however you call it, I don't know, is customer support. Now, if you're not a savvy EV driver that knows that brand and that model of charger, you wouldn't be able to recognize, is that a problem of my car? Is that a problem of the charger? Or suddenly we add that credit card terminal that has another need of another customer support. Guess what? Charging will not be made easier, not cheaper for you, because these credit card terminals need to be certified with each model against your banking authority in each country.
Right. Okay.
And suddenly that generates a lot of more things that needs to be paid. So is that the panacea?
See, I thought that lots that in the UK especially that that they don't act, I might be wrong. You tell me if I'm wrong. I thought they didn't accept credit cards. I thought they only accepted debit cards, so contactless. But maybe I'm totally wrong. You tell me.
Yeah, both things, and even the
Do
third
they?
type of cards, the business cards, that is uh, the business cards are a debit card with credit card capabilities, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, like I say, you know, the situation in Brittany was very different because I've never had that. I've never been poorly, like, you know, it came on really, really quickly. So to be honest, we were more bothered about getting me into the service station to make sure I was okay, you know. So if we'd have been taking it a bit slower, we would
Yeah.
have realized that actually those chargers were also on the Electroverse app as well. It was just one of those things, to be honest. And yeah,
That's the beauty of having apps. They can compete against each other. They can say, "Hey, you're missing that feature where I am better at." So it is better for all people charging, not only my app. Obviously, my app is going to be the best. But what if I live in a world where only one app exists? It will not get better.
no, you're right. You're right.
There's these folks on the social media world promoting one brand, and that is the only brand that's going to be the best. And it's like, guys, are you promoting a monopoly so that this brand
Mm,
doesn't improve?
mm,
You really want that? I don't think so. And yeah, I'm very critical of that. And I love diversity, and the lack of diversity has slowed down the charging infrastructure for a lot of countries.
mm.
Why? Because they haven't experienced a certain brand that doesn't use that connector, or that
Yeah.
has more voltage density, like 400 or 800-volt batteries. When you're just used to use 400, what happens if another manufacturer that is betting on another technology comes in? Oh, you are not prepared for that. You have never thought about that. What now?
Mm, mm.
You know,
So what?
I like to promote all EV brands, and
I get
and 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 don't like I need to know what I don't like from a manufacturer to know that in 2 years maybe that has improved,
you.
but it's not going to improve if we are only.
Just looking one way with
Yeah.
tunnel vision. I do get you. Right. Okay. So I'm going to ask you a final question then, and that relates to what we've just been saying. What would you like to see happen in the run up to 2030? Because obviously, so for us over here if you can say UK wise or worldwide, whichever you prefer or both, what would you like to see happen?
So I don't believe in an ICE ban, because that was never said like that in any legislation from any country. It's just the misuse of of stopping to sell internal combustion engines. I don't believe we need that. We thought in 2017, 18, there were graphs saying that price parity would be reached somewhere in 2028, 2027. Price parity is happening now.
Yes.
Okay, so do we need these measures? I don't think so. Do we need the blocking of certain manufacturers because this and that? I think this is shooting yourself in the foot,
Mm,
because you want to sell these type of products over there as well. So what's going to happen? Do we enter a war? I'm going to charge you more. No, I'm going to charge you more. Now, like, let's have a healthy competition. Some Asian manufacturers even say, yes, a certain type of protection is fine. If we will do it, then maybe I will stop buying pork from your country, or
yeah.
this affects
Like what's
Spain.
happened with the Chinese.
I will stop buying cognac from you, and that is affecting France, and they noticed that very clearly 2 or 3 weeks ago. So
Yes.
do we want to play the dumb
I know
game?
it is a bit in that way, it's tit for tat, isn't
Yeah.
it? As we call it. You know, it is tit for tat, get my teeth in, tit for tat. But and I get where you're coming from. And yeah, I could have another conversation, a whole new conversation with you about my thoughts, especially if we're talking about climate change
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
reduction in air pollution.
we don't like, I try to speak about that at least once per month. Like, why are we doing what we're doing? How many deaths, premature deaths happen yearly? How many allergies we didn't have when we were smaller are now normal in kindergartens? How many breathing problems are we seeing?
Yeah.
We need to remember that. And if I would add something to your previous question, would be let's make charging easier in the UK, please. Let's not pretend that roaming is now a thing because we're doing it with one or two players and then we just covered. We're doing it. We're following the law. No, that is not roaming. Don't fool yourself. It's impossible to go to an American and say, hey, I would like to bring you a lot of users, B2C and B2B users, to throw money on your chargers. Would they answer in a British way and say, oh, I'm not ready for that yet? But why? Like, why? Why?
They'd be like, give me the money.
Yes, exactly. And I think there's this little protectionist thing that is slowing electric mobility down. And maybe it's not needed. Obviously, in an insular state, it's understandable, but let's copy, or let's look at other user experiences that maybe can make us better and make charging a more profitable business, not only for the charge point owner, but also easier for the end user.
Absolutely. Yeah. Customer journey. This is all about the customer journey, and actually, looking at what the EV drivers need. And if the EV drivers don't know what they need, then you need to tell them what the options are and help them to make the kind of informed decisions, don't you?
Correct. And sometimes it's not known what is out there. Like, just ask. Open yourself. Make your market research. Why is it working better in this country? Why is the EV adoption better there? Or why is a poorer country than Spain have a higher adoption of EV? Portugal has a lot more EVs than Spain. Where did these subsidies fail? And we are on the third term of subsidies for EVs and charging infrastructure. Nothing has changed. Is it going to improve? Guess not. Yeah, like, you need to look at how subsidies work in France, how subsidies worked in Germany. What did happen in Germany when the subsidies suddenly disappeared from one day to the other? Did it really have an effect? Because I'm reading the Germans as well. It's like, well, I don't really feel the effect, but it's more like, oh, I was dumb enough and not to make use of this subsidy. Let me just wait until the next subsidy comes. What if it doesn't come? Then we're in this break that has slowed down the whole European continent of people saying, nah, I'm gonna sit here and wait until the next subsidy start. Now,
Can't wait, can you? No.
No.
Planet won't wait.
And Germany still has the THG quota, which means that the government will pay you a certain amount of money because you are contributing to reducing the CO2 emissions and reducing the cost of the NHS of Germany. There is a carbon market in Germany. There are mechanisms that you need to analyze and see, can I make use of my CO2 credits? In Germany, you can. There's even people that were working with me 3 years ago, being the representative of a British CPO that suddenly disappeared and made a very, very, very big success selling THG quotas. Let's understand what's out there. How does China work? How does the United States work? What is the mix that can make my country better? A little bit of like Spirii's history, right? Spirii history was, okay, let's find the best possible charge point management system before Spirii existed. Like, our co-founders were tasked with that, and then suddenly find out that each legislation, each country required a little piece of different. But was it this perfect thing? What if you have to send your customers from the Nordics down to the south and then have 7 different user experiences? Not acceptable nowadays. So let's pick and choose what is best. Build the Spirii and provide them to the CPOs to say, hey, oh, this comes from a company that understands that. Let's use that, maybe.
I think that's very true. And I've said this before on the podcast. There's a phrase: if you always do what you've always done, then you always get what you always got.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what we're talking about here, isn't it? It's actually thinking, thinking laterally, thinking differently, thinking outside the box, So yes, I think I get you. I do. I realize that that's what we do need to do. But listen, Sebastian, it's been fantastic having you on here. You're in the middle of a move as well, aren't you? In your apartment, bless you. So to be able to fit me in, that's just fantastic. So I'd just like to say thank you ever so much for joining me. It's been really great talking to you.
Thank you very much. I will go back and move some chairs and tables up there now.
I love that. That's brilliant. Listen, thank you ever so much. And listen, to everybody watching and listening, I'm going to say I shall see you later, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching this episode of Electric Evolution. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons to stay connected with us. And if you're inspired by our journey towards a sustainable future and want to support our mission on a monthly basis, please check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Electric Evolution Podcast. Your support really helps us to bring the latest insights and discussions in the world of clean energy, electric vehicles, electric vehicle charging and sustainability to you. If a regular subscription isn't what you're looking for, you can always consider buying us a coffee. Just head over to www.buymeacoffee.com/Electric Evolution Podcast. Every cup helps us to keep the electric evolution moving forwards. And if you're curious about our work in the EV infrastructure sector at Full Circle Continuous Improvement, why not visit us at www.fullcircleci.co.uk to find out more. And if you want to send me a message, you can always email me on liz@fullcircleci.co.uk. And finally, please don't forget to share this podcast if it's sparked your interest. And let's keep spreading the word about all of these topics that we're covering. So, until next time, see you soon. Bye!